Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another edition of Budget Magic, and we have a hilariously sweet Modern deck this week. We're heading to Modern to play Mono Blackbird, and this deck originally sent to me by BillBits, a viewer. Thank you so much to BillBits for sending in the deck, who said they've been playing this deck a bunch, and eventually, after several leagues, ended up going 5-0 with it in a Modern league, so apparently I can win some games. So this deck, as soon as I saw it, I knew he had to play it. It's ridiculous and super sweet. The one downside is technically $147, so a bit over our normal budget, although that's just because of the mana base, and I honestly think that a mana base that's under $100 is actually more optimal than the one we have now, but we'll talk about that as we go through the deck. So anyway, let's talk about this ridiculous Mono Blackbird deck for Modern. Jump into a Modern league, see it in action. So we start with two cards that we are literally never going to cast for mana. Chancellor of the Draw's Soul Spike. They're 7 mana. Our deck only has 16 lands. There is no chance we're ever going to cast them, but we don't need to cast them for mana because they do their work for free. Chancellor of the Draws, if it's in our opening hand, we reveal it and our opponent takes 3, we gain 3. So a free lightning helix at our opponent's face. Soul Spike, we can exile 2 black cards to cast it for free. 4 damage to something and we gain 4 life. And Soul Spike interacts well with Chancellor of the Draw since we can exile the Chancellors after we reveal them. Also worth mentioning these cards, and the odds of this ever happening are like minuscule, 1 in millions of games. But if we ever get an opening hand that's 4 Chancellor of the Drawses and 2 Soul Spikes, we can actually win the game on turn 0. We reveal all 4 Chancellors for 12, and then we pitch the Chancellors to the 2 Soul Spikes for 8 more. That is 20 damage before the game even starts. Otherwise, we got a ton of janky Blackburn spells. Bump in the Night. It's a black lava spike. Gonti's Mechanicians, kind of a black lightning helix, except it takes a little bit to get the energy as we lose life. Okaiba Rector Raid. 1 mana, 2 damage, and eventually flips into a 2/2. Sovereign's Bite, literally black lightning helix, can't hit creatures. Collective Brutality, some draining, some removal, some duressing. Then we have my favorite card in the deck, Sleeper Agent, which is essentially the Black Goblin Guide. 1 mana, 3/3. When it comes into play, we got to give it to our opponent, but then if you control Sleeper Agent, on the beginning of your upkeep, you have to take 2 damage from it. So the idea is, a lot of our burn gains us life, like Gonti's Mechanicians, Okaiba Reckoner Raid, Sovereign's Bite, Chancellor. So even though Sleeper Agent is going to hit us for 3 and our opponent for 2, we should win that exchange because we gain a bunch of life and we're dedicated to trying to lower our opponent's life total as quickly as possible. And if our opponent doesn't spend a removal spell on this and we play it on turn 1, it's probably going to hit our opponent for like 6 or 8 damage. It's actually ridiculously powerful, as janky as it looks. Otherwise, Sign in Blood, card draw can also target our opponent and be a burn spell for 2 loss of life. So we're playing Diplomacy, maybe draws some cards, maybe costs our opponent some life, kind of a Punisher burn effect. And then we have Soul Reap, which is the black Searing Blaze. 2 mana, blow up a non-green creature. If we played another black spell this turn, its controller loses 3 life, so we can play a 1-drop and then this on turn 3, blow up a Murktide Region or something, and hit our opponent for 3. The mana base, this is the reason the deck's a little bit over budget, around $150. We're playing a Blood Crypt, we're playing 4 fetch lands, but I actually don't think you need those or even want those. I think this actually makes the mana base worse, as weird as that sounds. So the idea of Blood Crypt is it can flash back Bump in the Night, but we only got 16 lands, so we're not really likely to get up to 6 mana to be able to flash it back anyway. So I think you cut that, and then the fetch lands, the idea is you can take damage to turn on Gonti's Mechanicians and find the Blood Crypt, but we don't need the Blood Crypt. So I think you can cut that as well and just replace it with Nurturing Peatland. More copies of Silent Clearing, essentially, is a land that we can take damage from for Gonti's Mechanicians and sack to draw cards if we flood out. So I actually think that would make the mana base better in the deck better, and it would drop the budget from like $150 down to like $90 or something. So I actually think you can build this deck and make it even better for under $100. Sideboard, Needlebite Trap to fight against life gain, Duress for control, Fatal Push Path to Peril for creature decks, Turek for white decks, Nile Spellbound from graveyards, and that is Mono Blackbird for Modern. That's our Budget Magic deck for this week. So let's jump into a league and see, can this unruly pile of Blackbird spells actually work in Modern? Is Sleeper Agent actually the Black Goblin Guide? We're gonna find out. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll be back in a bit for the wrap up. Need some Phyrexial will be 1 cards? Well, you can snag them from our sponsor, Card Kingdom, over at cardkingdom.com/mtggoldfish. Budget Magic time. We are playing some more Modern this week. We are playing Burn, but it's mono black bird. So this is actually a deck that a viewer sent to me. We'll see how this goes. We're gonna try the viewer's build straight up, and then maybe make some updates to it. Chancellor for 3. My biggest concern with this deck, it only has 16 lands, which is about as greedy as it gets. I mean, we're gonna keep this though. Opponent's on Jengatha, so turn 1, reveal Chancellor. Drain you for 3. I guess we just give our opponent a Sleeper Agent. I have never seen anyone actually play Sleeper Agent before, but we're about to do it. Play a Mountain and Swamp, and a Sleeper Agent. Opponent, would you like a 3/3? So Sleeper Agent, at the beginning of our opponent's turn, they take 2 damage. However, it's a 3/3 for 1 mana that can attack us for 3. So the idea is we're aggro enough that our opponent taking 2 is okay, even though we're going to take more damage out of it. Bloodstained Mire for our opponent. Cracks Bloodstained Mire. We do really need land number 2 for these Sovereign Bites. Ragavan and a Mishra's Bauble. And another Mishra's Bauble. And opponent gets in for 3. Let's draw a land. If we draw a land, we're in pretty good shape. Well, bump in the night, yeah? Down to 9. Maybe we can do it with 1 land. Opponent's at 9, 8/7, 6/5, 4, 3, 2. Wow, we are... Oh, actually, do we win next turn? Wait, opponent's at 9. They go to 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Wow, okay. Maybe 1 land is perfectly fine here. Our opponent could Thoughtseize us, which then would require us to draw land. Our opponent is down to 7. Death Shadow. With the Death Shadow on the stack, grow your Death Shadow. Your go, opponent. Down to 1. This means they have to kill the Sleeper Agent. They have to kill the Sleeper Agent and counter the Bump in the Night. They do get it. Oh, it was a land. We needed that land. Well, I mean, Bump in the Night, yo. This means our opponent dies though, right? They died a Sleeper Agent. It worked. Opponent has Ragavan. Opponent has Death Shadow. But apparently we have the more powerful 1-drop. Well, I guess technically our opponent has that too, but... Sleeper Agent, actually. Wow. We had 1 land and we went on turn 3. Maybe Sleeper Agent's actually kind of good. Fatal Push might be, sadly, somewhat necessary. Fatal Push. Gonti's Mechanicians. Okaiba Gang Reckoner? Actually, let's go down 1 Soul Reap. Mechanicians. It worked that time. That is the first ever Sleeper Agent kill I've gotten. Well, we have 2 lands this time. That's good. We actually have like a ridiculous amount of creature removal for our deck. Opponent, Blood Crypt. Sand is much less explosive though. Well, Swamp and Fatal Push the Monkey. Pass the turn. Watery Grave. Ooh, now we're in kind of flood out mode actually. Marsh Flats. The fetch lands look weird in this deck. They're here to trigger Gonti's Mechanicians. Expressive Iteration. DRC, opponent, Scalding Tarn, cracks it. Well, we are gonna have to kill the DRC now. Crack the Marsh Flats. I guess we take the Blood Crypt just in case. We're flooding out enough that maybe we could cast a flashback, a Bump in the Night at some point. Well, there's the Sleeper Agent. Well, this is actually kind of good. So we get to Sleeper Agent, give it to our opponent. Verdant Catacombs, crack Verdant Catacombs. I didn't realize Soul Reap was a card, but it is essentially Searing Blaze for our deck. Soul Reap, the DRC, hits you for 3. I mean, we will see. Opponent down to 12, thanks to the Sleeper Agent. Sadly, we are turning on Death Shadows here. Down to 15. Passes, interesting. Sign in Blood, try to draw a couple cards. Technically a burn spell. All right, we are not going to pay for that. Silent Clearing, Sovereign's Bite you? Oh no, even more counters? Opponent kept a counter-heavy hand. Watery Grave untapped. Drown in the Lock. All right, so opponent goes to 7. This is going to be close. Opponent, Expressive Iteration, gets a Ledger Shredder, plays a Snow-Covered Swamp, plays a Ledger Shredder. Well, the coast is probably clear now. We'll see what we draw. Opponent's not that far away from being dead. Chancellor of the Dross. Okay, so Collective Brutality, 2 modes. Duress you, drain you. Discard Chancellor of the Dross, which we're never gonna cast. Wait, I think if we take the bolt, we win. So take the lightning bolt. So they don't have a way to kill the sleeper agent. They do get to connive, but kill the ledger shred. Wow, this is working. They need to connive into a 1-mana removal spell that they can cast at instant speed right now to kill the sleeper agent. And a potion. Sleeper Agent X2. Wait, is Sleeper Agent actually a legit card? This is like MH2 Tribal, DRCs, Ragavans, Expressive Iteration, just banned in Legacy, Ledger, like through all the most busted cards in the format. Hilariously awesome. I like this deck already. Sweet, 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 sweet. Budget magic time. We are mono black burning in in modern, and we're gonna try this. 3 lands is kind of a lot, although 1 is silent clearing, which can turn into a new card if we need it. And I mean, we got some burn. Ooh, double Okaiba Reckoner Raid. Wow, opponent doesn't even bother to read it. Maybe they're a standard player. All right, ping you for 1. So this is technically a 2 damage 1 mana burn spell. Also gains us some life. Eventually turns into a 2/2. It's not horrible. It's almost like the red one. Kazakhstan faces the whatever, that huge, ridiculously long name. It's almost like that one. Play a swamp. I guess we just use our mana and Sovereign's Bite, yeah. Wow, no counter. Opponent down to 14. All right, back down to 20. Opponent burns our face. Gets his team. They probably want the card in the graveyard, honestly. That's the most likely reason for that bold, is they're trying to like power up a Murktide or something. Expressive Iteration. We might be able to resolve Swordplay Diplomacy next turn. I guess we could also like Brutality, Spire Bluff Canal. I mean, if our opponent taps out, okay, now Swordplay Diplomacy is even more likely. Mishra's Bauble. I mean, I guess we'll see what we draw. There's probably some argument to killing the Ragavan. We do have a 2/2 now. We draw a Sleeper Agent. So that flips. So we can just Swordplay Diplomacy. We could also Brutality. Do we care about this Ragavan? We gotta assume Murktide's coming at some point. Probably next turn. Sword Point does help fuel Soul Spike. I imagine if we Sword Point, we're probably mostly drawing cards. I guess the question is, are we trying to kill this Ragavan? We could also like Sleeper Agent, Okaiba Reckoner Raid, Sleeper Agent Brutality, kill Ragavan. But then we're not getting any damage out of the Brutality, which is awkward. I think we're gonna do what we came here to do. Yeah, Swordplay Diplomacy. Give us some cards or take some damage. 2 lands is a bit awkward. We'll see. We might just draw 3 here. I guess if we draw too many lands, that does give us something to pitch to the Brutality. Our opponent just lets us draw 3. Well, we'll pass. Getting hit by Ragavan, like, it's not ideal, but it's also not the total end of the world. All right, opponent does care about getting in with a Ragavan. Gotta get that treasure. We did not draw a removal spell for Murktide, though, which is awkward. Ragavan hits us, steals a Okaiba Raid Reckoner, and considers to grow the Murktide. Yeah, it would have been nice to draw a hard removal spell. Can we beat a Murktide is the real question. I don't know if we can. Oh, it's just a Ledger Shredder, okay. And opponent, oh, we draw Soul Reap. That's interesting. So I think how we do this is we play Silent Clearing. Collective Brutality, 2 modes. Opponent's at 12. Actually, let's think about this. Bump of the Night to 9. Sleeper Agent 8/7. Wait, can we win here? I guess our opponent could have like a Spell Pierce. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I mean, technically we could win. If our opponent has nothing, we're at 19. That's a lot of life. Bump in the Night You. Soul Reap Ragavan. See if our opponent has a counter here. So opponent connives. Discards a Blood Moon. Sleeper Agent, you. They would have countered one of these things, right? Like, the problem is they could kill the Sleeper Agent, and we'd have to pitch our whole hand. All right, let's pass for now. All right, they killed a Sleeper Agent anyway. Should we Soul Spike? Probably. All right, pitch them both. Hit you to 2. All right, we need 2 damage. We can crack Silent Clearings. Ragavan, no dash. Ragavan with dash. Opponent's just conniving. We should be in okay shape here. Opponent legend rolls. Ragavan steals a Ganti's Mechanicians. We draw a Bump in the Night. Yeah, bump ya. And that does it. Why is this working? Why is this working? I mean, I guess we probably want a couple Fatal Pushes. 16 lands. That is such a low number. So bring in a couple Fatal Pushes. Could also see an argument for Nile's Spellbomb, although probably better just to kill the Murktide if we can. Go down a Mechanicians. Go down a Sign in Blood. Actually, maybe we go all 3 Fatal Pushes. I guess Sleeper Agent. Well, we'll go down the new version. Sleeper Agent probably dies too much. Right like that. I can't believe this deck is actually working. Wow, double Sleeper Agent. I mean, we do need to draw land, but we're going to be spying like crazy here. All right, opponent, what do you got? Spire Bluff Canal, and, well, we probably got to kill that, unfortunately. Opponent, Mishra's Bobble. Opponent cracks a bobble, takes a peek. Hopefully they're looking at a land on the top of our deck. Opponent draws a card. Sovereign's Bite. Well, Blood Crypt, and kill the Ragavan. We do need to draw a land. Opponent, Polluted Delta, cracks it. And Ledger Shredder. And a Bobble to Connive. How's about a land? Discards an Unholy Heat. Takes a peek. Not a land. Alright, Reckon a Raid, Draenia. Yeah, this is a thing that's gonna happen when you play 16 lands. Oh, dashed Ragavan. If this Ragavan hits a land, I'm going to be very displeased. Opponent gets in, hits us. Steals a land that we desperately needed. And when I say desperately, I mean desperately. Opponent, Stupid Monkey. Oh no, oh my goodness, what a draw. I think we're at draw land or bust. It's a Soul Spike. Pina. I guess yeah, one land. If we had one more land, I think this would have worked. We can Soul Spike to kill the Murktide, but that is so painful. 7, 8, I mean, if we take 10, we're gonna die. Oh boy, all right. Exile, and this is gonna trigger. I guess we gotta be greedy and pass so we don't trigger Ledger Shredder. So pass the turn. This means our opponent could have a counter, and if they do, opponent down to 15. Opponent dashes Ragavan. Oh, we gotta do it. There's no way we can win without doing it. Back up to 20 temporarily. Opponent hits us. If this monkey steals another land, Sword Point Diplomacy exiled. And another Ledger Shredder. And yep. Discards Flusterstorm, picks up the monkey. Well, we finally drew a land, but I think it's a tiny bit too late. I mean, that is the risk of playing 16 lands. The deck really wants 2 to 3 lands. Oh, I guess we just have to waste the removal spell past the turn. Opponent takes 2. Yeah, that was so when I saw this deck, when it was sent in by, I should get the person's name so I can give them a proper shout out again. My main concern, I mean, obviously it's Blackburn, which is hilarious and funny and sweet. My one real concern was 16 lands. That is a risky number. It's from Bilblitz. That was my main concern. Is 16 enough? 16 is not a big number of lands. Opponent gonna go to combat, gonna hit us for a ton. Well, I mean, we're gonna block the stupid monkey, take a bunch, down to 6. Well, now we're drawing all the lands. Not the best timing for that. Yeah, we're just dead, right? So that was my concern. My guess, I don't know. We'll see. But I want to try it. Maybe 16 is the correct number because flooding out is a problem. You really want 3 lands, I guess. Exactly. 2 to 3 lands is what you really want. Now we get to play first. This is a fine hand. 2 lands. So that's the upside of playing a low land count, is you're less likely to get those flood out games, which are not good. We don't want to be flooding out with this deck. But there is a risk that you're going to get stuck on 1 land. 1 land draws are not going to be uncommon with 16 lands. So I don't know, maybe 18, but I wanted to play it and see how it felt, really. That was the main goal. I want to play it and get a sense for how it actually feels. Opponent's going to decide if they want to crack their fetch. It appears the answer might be no. Opponent draws a card. Well, silent clearing. Yeah, let's just sign in blood, draw a couple cards. Opponent's gonna counter it. Steam Vent's untapped. Oh, just consider. Okay, I mean, this works out. Opponent ended up shocking themselves here. Ooh, no land though. Opponent did end up shocking themselves. I do wonder, like, this Soul Reap really does want enough land to cast 2 spells in a turn. That might be another argument for playing slightly more lands. Opponent's gonna do stupid monkey things. He gets in with the stupid monkey, hits us. Please don't steal a land. Steals a land. Makes a treasure. Bump in the night, yeah? Pass the turn. Opponent adapts. Ledger Shredder. And stupid monkey. Kill the Ledger Shredder. Opponent gets a monkey. Does some conniving. Yeah, drawing a land here would be super sweet. Wow, discards another monkey. We do draw land. Okay, so, now things are interesting. Now things are very interesting. So I guess the best plan is play the swamp. We could just Sword Point Diplomacy, but then our opponent gets to trigger the Ragavan. Fatal Push the monkey. Sovereigns Bite you down to 11 past the turn. Opponent. DRC. Passes. Okaiba Reckoner Raid. Drain you. Soul Reap. See if they got a counter. Alright, so opponent does have a Fluster Storm. Yup, it's gonna be close. So the DRC lives, unfortunately. Opponent gets to Surveil. Oh, so gonna be they leave it on top, so it's gotta be a land, I assume. Yeah, there's land number 3. There's a Ledger Shredder. Opponent gets in it. You gotta get in. Gets in, hits us. We draw a land. So we can Collective Brutality Duress mode to clear the way for Soul Reap. That might be the best bet. Opponent will go to 6. We could just fire off Sword Point and hope it resolves and draw a bunch of cards. I kind of like waiting. On the other hand, if we Soul Reap Ledger Shredder and then our opponent Murktides, how bad is that? Collective Brutality. I think we Duress mode. Or do we just burn? Oh, this is such a tight spot. Maybe we just Sword Point? We're so close yet so far away. Another counter is a problem. We know our opponent has 3 action cards. We're pretty confident because they were digging for that land. Yeah, I think we do it. Collective Brutality. Duress you. Counterspell, consider, in Minor Misstep. Take the counterspell. Play the land. Soul Reap the Ledger Shredder. Hit you to 6. Opponent, I assume, is going to connive away Minor Misstep. Oh, connives away a land. Okay. So opponent's hand is Consider in Minor Misstep. Opponent gets to Consider. They get to Surveil. This is so close. Leaves the card on top. Draws it. That's a bad sign. I don't know what our opponent would leave on top other than Murktide or... Okay, Ragavan. That makes some sense. Opponent dashes a Ragavan. Oh, gets a treasure. Now we would like our opponent to hit a land. Steals a Sign in Blood. Opponent plays a tap land. Opponent passes. We draw a Sleeper Agent. We flip our Saga. Sword Point Diplomacy. I don't know if we can get there fast enough. We're at 8. This puts us to 7. Play Gonti's Mechanicians. There's the Minor Misstep our opponent held on to. Opponent gets to Surveil. Mills a Spell Pierce, so they're drawing a blind card. Hopefully it's nothing great. Opponent untaps. Ragavan plus whatever they drew for the turn. It's the Ragavan. Opponent goes to combat. Opponent goes attacking, We're gonna block. Drop to 4. Chancellor of the Dross isn't ideal. Kaiba Reckoner Raid. Drain you. Gonti's Mechanicians. Pass the turn. We can't Sleeper Agent, right? Yeah, pass it. Wow, this is so close. Opponent has top decks that kill us, like a Burn Spell or a Ragavan. They get to redraw. If they don't kill us here, we got a decent shot. Opponent hits us. This is so close, down to 2. We get a counter. Opponent passes. We drain you. Collective Brutality. Get an energy. 2 modes. Duress you. Drain you. Discard the Chancellor. Drew a counter spell. Well, we play Sleeper Agent. Pass the turn. Oh my goodness! Oh, we beat Murktide! We beat Murktide with Sleeper Agent! Sleeper Agent is just crushing people! How is this happening? How is this happening? How is Sleeper Agent besting Ragavans and Dragon Rage Channelers? How is Mono Black Bird beating the best decks in the modern format? I'm blown away. I'm blown away. That was spectacular. Sweet, sweet. Budget Magic time. We are playing more Mono Black Burn in Modern, and I guess this hand's fine. We have the ultra painful mana base, but we do have some life gain. I mean, if we're up against like aggro or something, I honestly I don't want to play Burn with this hand, but I kind of want to play Burn because one of the weird upsides of this deck is, yes, our Burn isn't as efficient as Red Burn, but a lot of it also gains us life. So I'm curious if our life gain would let us be mono Red Burn or Boros Burn or whatever, even though they're more efficient, just because we get to buff our life total. Well, we'll see what our opponent's doing, but this hand's reasonable. 2 lands, card draw, removal, burn, card draw, something. We'll see what Collective Brutality needs to do. Silent Clearing, and go. Oh my god, it is burn. Well, maybe burn. Sacred Foundry. Well, we need to draw a non-pain land. Sleeper Agent. I don't know if we want to play that yet. Silent Clearing. Sign in Blood. Sticking with the pain land plan. Opponent. Oh, Jeskai, so not burn. Oh no, Thopter Foundry combo. That's an issue. The life gain is the biggest issue here. Sovereigns bite you past the turn. Not feeling especially confident. Pain lands aren't going to be a problem, but this combo is. Well, bump in the night you. Okaiba Reckoner Raid you. We are lowering our life total and our opponent's life total pretty equally here. Opponent Urza Saga. Hallowed Fountain untapped. Passes. Well, we draw land, which is good. Play a swamp. This construct's going to be big. Play a sleeper agent. Ouch, ouch. Soul Reap the Sentinel? Opponent does get to draw a card, unfortunately. Well, kill the Sentinel. All right, pass the turn. Opponent drops to 6/5 from the sleeper agent. Oh, you know what the problem's going to be? Shadow Sphere. That's going to be the issue. I expect our opponent's going to tutor up Shadow Sphere and gain a big hunk of life, and then that is going to ruin our day. Spring Leaf Drum. And Portable Hole. Yeah, this life gain is the issue. Opponent going to hit us for 10 and gain 7. Yeah, that is going to do. Well, we've met our match. The funny thing is we would have won this game, I think. I think we would have won it. Gonti's Mechanicians. So now we're literally dead. Yeah, Shadow Sphere is an issue. Urza Saga, messed up Magic the Gathering card. How do we fight this deck? We don't get to kill things. We don't get to kill artifacts. Nile Spellbomb can kind of stop the combo. This is going to be tricky. We don't really have a way to just... Bearby, will you stop eating that? We don't really have a way to stop our opponent from going off with Shadow Sphere either, off of Urza Saga. And we need to keep our burn. All right, Nile Spellbomb in, Duress in. Could we bring in the Needlebite traps? Our opponent does gain life with their combo. Maybe it's better than the Chancellors. Let's try it. We gotta go desperation mode. We gotta go desperation mode in this matchup. Run it like that. Yeah, this actually feels like a tough matchup just because of the life gain. We don't have a way to really prevent that. Like that game we would have won if our opponent didn't have gain 7 with Shadow Sphere. Well, I mean, we got a bunch of burn. We'll see if it's fast enough. Swamp and Gonti's Mechanicians go. Portable Hole. Technically, it still kind of dealt 2 damage. Sleeper Agent, well, all right, Silent Clearing, Bump in the Night you, Sleeper Agent for you. Let's see how much damage this Sleeper Agent can deal. Opponent down to 13. Opponent. Goblin Engineer, gonna find some combo pieces, unfortunately. That's the sword. Collective Brutality, sometimes I call it a duress, but it cannot hit artifacts. Only instants and sorceries. Which means if our opponent has Thopter Foundry, they just go infinite and we lose. Play the land. Crack the land. Swamp. Sovereigns bite you. Pass the... we just gotta hope they don't have it. I mean, the Sleeper Agent's doing work. Sleeper Agent is like the surprise all-star in this deck. Well, let's see if they got infinite. Hallowed Fountain. Tapped. Hits us with both. Okay. Pithing Needle. That's not really going to do anything. Name Silent Clearing. Sure. Well, Sword Point Diplomacy. Oh, opponent's got the counter. Okay. Yeah. That's unfortunate. We would have liked some cards here. Well, go Sleeper Agent. Go Sleeper Agent. And no combo off the top. Opponent down to 6. Oh, come on. No Thopter Foundry. Down to 9. Passes. Well, Bump in the Night you. Opponent has even more counters. Metallic Rebuke. Can't pay for that. Sovereigns bite you. Down to 3. Sleeper Agent to 2. Hold. We just need Sleeper Agent to live for one more turn. And opponents gives it up. Oh, we did it in the hard matchup. Okay. Is Sleeper Agent actually just a good card? Sleeper Agent, also Pithy Needle on the sideboard could be very well be worth considering for this deck. I'm honestly blown away at how good Sleeper Agent has been. All right, run it back. It worked last time. Can it work one more time? Opponent's on the play this game. Sleeper Agent dealt like 8 damage or something. It's so absurd. It reads like such a janky bad card, but it is just like straight up killing people in this deck. It reads like a meme, but apparently 16 lands is all right. All right, opponent's on the play. We will keep. We got our sneaky sideboard tech. Reveal the Chancellor. Hit you to 17. So only Chancellor that's still in our deck at the moment. Spring Leaf Drum. We draw a Bump in the Night. Marsh Flats. Crack it, thin the deck. Schwamp. Bump you down to 14 past the turn. Well, let's see how fast they can combo. Opponent. No sleeper agent this game. Oh, there's the Saga. There's the Saga that we're not good at beating. Passes. Well, Swamp. Sovereigns bite you. But can we beat this construct that is the problem. These constructs. Oh no, another one. Gonna pass. Well, Silent Clearing, Sword Point Diplomacy, no lands. Soul Spike is interesting. Okay, they take away the Soul Spike. Drop to 8. So opponent wants to make sure they're making these goblins, or golems. All right, opponent makes a golem. If they want to make another one, though, they can't equip, right? Opponent floats a mana. Opponent gets a Haywire Might. Yeah, Pithing Needle in the sideboard for Shadow Sphere, or we do technically have a red source. We could play Artifact Destruction. Opponent cracks down to 7. I mean, if they can also... So if they can equip... Oh my god, Urza. That's another huge construct. That's going to beat us, isn't it? It's too much life gain. So opponent's going to gain 6 back up to 13, and I don't think we can deal 13. Our opponent has too many big bodies. Opponent goes up to 13. We drop to 18. Collective Brutality, not actually helpful here. So we can kill a construct, but then they just equip and do it again. And now they also have Urza for mana. One thing we know is life gain is very good against burn decks, and we're seeing that play out. Okaiba Raid Reckoner. Thought we had it too. Hit you to 12. Soul Reap. I mean, opponent still has counter mana. Yeah. Oh, they're gonna sack Haywire Might. Okay. I mean, that's even more life gain. Pass the turn. But then this just, it keeps happening. It keeps happening. Vote it, Urza Saga. You're gonna make a huge construct. Loses a side. Oh, jeez. Well, I mean, I guess we can also write this off to unfortunate running that our opponent... I mean, they drew the Shadow Sphere in triple Urza Saga in their top 14 cards. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's just unfortunate. Opponent gets in gain 6. Oh, Shadow Sphere. So question, if you're watching this, how can we beat this? Because we're definitely not beating this now. No, Nile Spellbomb, Silent Clearing, Soul Reap the Construct. Oh, we don't get damage because that's not a black spell. Yeah, this one's officially just over. So we found a problem with the deck, which is Shadow Sphere and Urza Saga. How do we beat that? Because this deck's been so cool and so sweet. This would have been another very easy win, honestly, I think, if it wasn't for us getting wrecked by Shadow. Like you saw the game where there was no Shadow Sphere, we crushed our opponent. Unfortunately, because of Urza Saga, the deck's very good at finding Shadow Sphere. What is our answer as a mono black deck? I know the color pie has been thrown out the window in many regards, but one thing that still matters, and who knows why, there's no rhyme or reason to it anymore, but that is black doesn't get to kill artifacts. What do we do about Shadow Sphere? And to a lesser extent, Urza Saga, Ratchet Bomb in the sideboard maybe, Pithing Needle in the sideboard maybe. I think this is something worth answering, considering, I mean, we can look at how popular these cards are. Urza Saga, it's not like some fringe thing that you're rarely gonna see. Urza Saga is in what percentage of decks? Wait, Urza Saga is not? Wait, am I in the wrong format? Oh, I'm in standard. No, yes, Urza Saga not very heavily played in standard. That is true. You were correct, website. Modern, I misclicked. Where's Urza Saga? Urza Saga, 19% of decks. So we can expect if we play a 5-match league, we will probably play against an Urza Saga deck. Urza Saga decks are gonna do that. Make huge tokens and give them lifelink. So something to keep in mind. The deck has been ridiculously cool, but it seems like it's kind of drawing dead to Shadow Sphere. So that might be something worth fixing. Budget magic time. We are playing some more Black Burn in Modern, and this hand actually looks really good. We get to start with Chancellor of the Dross, which we can pitch to this Brutality in the future, and then I think we just get the Sleeper Agent going down to 15. What are you up to? 15 on turn 0. And then next turn we can bump in Mechanicians and start getting some energy. Or if we have to, we could Brutality with Escalate to do something. Opponent gets in for 3. And opponent's going to Grief. our hand's pretty, oh, it's Living End. This is going to be interesting. They probably have to take the Brutality, because if we get to keep the Brutality, yeah, we can discard the Chancellor of the Dross. Opponent passes, so Gonti's Mechanicians, Silent Clearing, get an Energy, bump in the Night U. Opponent cycles Architects of Will. Who drops to 10? Wow, is it going to be enough? This is going to be super close. Opponent gets in, hits us. Sure. I'd love to get this Chancellor in the graveyard. Down to 16. We get some energy, so Mechanicians is on. Botanical Sanctum passes. We draw 8 Marsh Flats. Marsh Flats. Crack it. Get some energy. Get a Swamp. So let's see. This is 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. I think we sign in blood ourselves. Play another Sleeper Agent. Opponent cycles. One more burn spell. 1. So opponent's going to drop to 6. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But I assume they can do their thing here. Actually, they can grief the Sleeper Agent. So opponent hits us. It all comes down to this. We need a burn spell, and we should be able to burn our opponent out. I guess they could be slow rolling a Force of Negation, but we drop to 6. We get some energy. Gonna do their thing. So the problem here is they also can Architects of Will us to control the top of our deck. Opponent passes. Actually, one of the only burn spells that isn't gonna work. All right, there's the Living End. We are going to end up one damage short. Architects resolves first. None of our burn is instant speed. We're going to end up 1 damage short. That grief actually saved our opponent if we could have got down the Chancellor. So now our opponent can stack our deck in a way that our top card isn't going to save us. And we can hit our opponent to 3. And then either one of these cards can put our opponent to 1. But then we die to the attacks. So we're going to end up literally 1 point of damage off. So opponent stacks the top of our deck, griefs. I mean, we can randomly draw a card to see if our opponent punts. Takes the Brutality. Well, I mean, this is the only option. I'm sure this isn't going to save us. Sword Point Diplomacy, and we scoop it up. Wow. All right. Well, we'll bring in the Nile Spellbombs. We'll go down the Soul Reaps, because killing our opponent's creatures is not a realistic plan. And maybe go up a Duress, I guess? We needed 1 point of damage. I wonder, is there something we did wrong? Is there some way we could have gotten 1 more damage out of our cards? Maybe. So far, and I'm so afraid to say this because I know I'm going to say it and then we're going to get a 0-lander, but so far 16 lands seems to have mostly been okay. Here's the 1-lander that we probably have to mulligan. Yeah, I don't think this hand beats our opponent's deck. Well, that's a lot of bump in the nights. I guess Sovereign's to the bottom. Marsh Flats, crack it, Swamp, and bump you. Pass the turn. Cycle Street Wraith down to 15. And there's the grief, of course. Gonna take our Sign in Blood, I assume. Oh, it takes Brutality. Okay. I guess they don't want us to be able to discard something. Guess we need to find Graveyard Hate. We draw a Swamp. Well, I mean, play a Swamp, Sign in Blood to try to draw a couple cards. I think our opponent does have Force. They just don't know if it's worth it. All right, opponent, lets it go. We draw some more Bump in the Nights. But none of this stops our opponent from just, like, doing what Living End does, which is making a huge board next turn and killing us. Nile Spellbound would be sweet. I don't know if it'll resolve, but that would be sweet. Evokes a Foundation Breaker just to get it in the graveyard. Well, come on, Nile Spellbomb. Nile Spellbomb right now. Collective Brutality. Well, is there a way we can just win through a Living End? We get griefed. Opponent makes a lethal board. I mean, I guess we can Silent Clearing, Collective Brutality, Duress mode. The problem is this isn't guaranteed anymore because of Shardless Agent. We can do this, and then our opponent can still just Shardless Agent. How much damage do we have? But we're going to lose some to this grief. We could Sign in Blood to just hope to draw into Nile Spellbomb. Maybe that's our best bet. Brutality is like, what, 50-50 to work. If it whiffs, it's pretty sad. But our odds of hitting Nile Spellbomb are not high either. Sign in Blood. Draw a couple cards. Bump in the Night U. Oh, opponent had Force of Negation. Opponent, land, and Cycle Street Wraith. Oh, the Brutality actually would have worked. Wait, no. All right, there's Shardless Agent. Opponent reanimates their graveyard. We might as well do this because we're gonna lose it anyway. Hit you to 6. We go to 18. We need 2 burn spells and a live. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Play the land. Sovereigns bite you. Pass the turn. I think we actually kind of have a shot, right? So we survive this attack. We need to not get force of negation and draw a burn spell. Opponent hits us. Oh, no. Well, that wasn't going to be it anyway. Yeah, the pumping does it. Well, we didn't win, but good God, were we close. Like... It was really both games, 1 burn spell away. And our opponent just had, obviously, we didn't draw a graveyard hate, and our opponent had what Living End always has, which is the turn 3 nut draw, because that's what their deck does. On to the next. Budget Magic time. It's finally happening. We're finally getting punished for playing 16 lands. We are mulliganing a 0 lander. Well, I mean, this we will keep. We will put a Collective Brutality to the bottom. This hand's okay. I would not consider it exciting, but I mean, we only got 6 cards, so I guess that's the way of the world. Hit ya. Reckoner Raid. Down to 19. Oh boy. Our archenemy Urza's Saga. Turn 1 Urza's Saga, though. Drain you with the Raid Reckoner. Well, I mean, I guess we just play Gonti's Mechanicians, play the Marsh Flats, pass the turn. Digs up the Saga. I mean, our opponent's not going to get to make 2 constructs, right? Oh, is this Amulet Titan? Gotta be Amulet Titan. All right, so opponent's just trying to find an Amulet. Oh, that's another thing we can't actually answer. Well, crack the fetch. Gonti's Mechanicians. Get a Blood Crypt tapped. Untap. Flip the Saga. Silent Clearing. We might die next turn, so make some mana, get some energy. Sword Point Diplomacy. Sleeper Agent, Mechanicians, land. Gives us all 3. However, this is a turn where Primeval Titan can come down, and come down brutally. Well, maybe maybe this turn. Double Amulets, kind of ridiculous. So if our opponent plays a bounce land here, right, they just play Primeval Titan and win? Yeah, Mycosynth Gardens seems pretty good here. Opponent, 6 mana. Or 4 mana rather, off of a single land. Into an Explore, this will get them up to 6 mana. And there it is. I mean, if they have Primeval Titan, we just lose, right? That's how this works. Opponent, Dryad of the Ilson Grove, and a bounce land. All right, so they get to play the Dryad before the Primeval Titan. Yeah. We resolved a Sword Point Diplomacy. We got him. Opponent. Gonna go for a Cultivator Colossus. Plays it with 0 land so it dies, which I imagine wasn't... Well, maybe that was the plan. So opponent going to have literally infinite mana here. Jeez. Well, turn 3. Opponent. Putting lands into play. Okay. All of these lands untap multiple times. I mean, there's no way we're not dead here. Opponent's got 6 cards in hand, and turn 3 they have 40 mana or something? How much mana is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Doubled. So 28 mana minimum? Seems fair. We're trying to sleep rage. We're just trying to sleep rage people. So I think what we've seen with this deck is in fair matchups, it's actually pretty good. It actually felt very good. Like, is it Grixis, Death Shadow, decks that are trying to play like a real game of Magic? On the other hand, we have seen that against degenerate combo decks that are just comboing off on turn 3, maybe one turn too slow to actually have a shot against those decks consistently. I mean, I guess we stick around until our opponent plays Primeval Titan. Well, maybe Mycosynth Gardens is the card that gets Primeval Titan banned. I don't know that card. Primeval Titan, it's funny how it always, for some reason, always dodges the ban conversation. I mean, I guess it's just another turn 3 combo kill deck. And Modern has many of those. Amulet, again. What happened to their other Amulet? And a Dryad of the Ilson Grove. I'm not sure why we're... Okay, there's a... All right, yes. I mean, that is a good turn, opponent. That was well done. What do we got, sideboard? What do we got for this? You know what? Let's go down 2 sword point diplomacies and go up 2 duresses. I mean, really, I think we're mostly hoping our opponent has a less than optimal draw. Like, if our opponent does what they did that game, there's no way we can win. I mean, there's no way anyone, I mean, I guess there's ways some people win, which is just by comboing before them, but there's no way our deck is ever going to beat that draw. Sleeper Agent, opponent, take a 3/3. Untaps, gets drained. Well, let's see if they got it. Yup, there's a Saga and an Expedition map, and opponent gets in for 3. We draw a Bump in the Night. Well, Marsh Flats and crack it. This hand desperately needs another land. With 2 sword point diplomacies in hand, we really need a land. Opponent, Urza Saga. Well, that means the Amulet's coming. Beseiju for our opponent and an Explorer to make some more land drops and a bounce land to pick up the Beseiju. Gets in for 3. Come on, deck. How about a land? Although I think we just die next turn. Come on, deck. Sign in Blood. Sign in Blood. Draw 2. Well, there's all the lands. Hit you to 10. Pass the turn. Opponent goes to 8. An Amulet is coming into play. And once the Amulet comes into play, that means our opponent can win. 7 cards in hand, explore, draws a card, external land drop, bounce land, generates mana thanks to Amulet, untaps it, generates more mana, picks it up, cracks Expedition map. To get a Mycosynth Gardens, to make another Amulet, doesn't even bother to attack. Wow, this is another game where we're 1 burn spell short. Let's think about this. So if we play Sword Point Diplomacy, the Soul Spike is 4, this is 2. So if we play Sword Point, we draw 3. We need to hit a 1. We are so close. The problem is we can't Soul Reap this Sleeper Agent. We need its damage. All right, Sword Point Diplomacy. We need a 1 mana burn spell of some kind. Another Sleeper Agent would do it. Bump in the Night would do it. Those are the 2 big ones. Or our opponent taking some damage off Sword Point Diplomacy, that would also do it. Because we have 4 from the Soul Spike. Like, our opponents hit 2. 2 from Sleeper Agent, 4 from Soul Spike. They're at 2. Can we find the last 2? Wow. I will say, even when we lose with this deck, outside of the Soul Sphere life gain games, it is super close. Our last match against Living End, it was so close. This match, again, so close. Oh, that doesn't do it. That is the downside of Chancellor of the Dross, I guess. All right, we will pass the turn. That was not the 3 we wanted to see. Opponent goes to 2. So now we somehow need our opponent to lose life here. The problem is I think we just die immediately. I don't think I've ever seen an Amulet Titan deck untap with double Amulet and not win the game. I don't know if it's possible for our opponent to not win the game. I mean, they also have 7 cards in hand. If you had 0 cards in hand, but 7 cards in hand, double Amulet, I think it's gotta be 100% to win the game. Wow, so this is gonna be another one. We're gonna end up 2 points of damage short. Opponent, right at the Ilsen Grove for an extra land drop, replays the same land. Yep. Does the same thing again. Taps and untaps. Picks up the land. What a boring deck to play against. Summoner's Pact. Gets a Cultivator Colossus. Plays a Cultivator Colossus. Does this a few hundred times. Sunhome. Bounce Land. Urza Saga. Mycosynth Gardens. Vesuva. I mean, that's actually just deterministically game, right? Well, I guess they don't have haste at the moment. Pretty good Cultivator Colossus. None of these cards lose our opponent life. Really don't feel like sitting through this pile of triggers. For the sake of my sanity, our opponent hasn't 100% showed that they can win this turn. They have infinite mana. It's functionally infinite mana. They have 6 cards in hand. Technically, they have not shown lethal this turn. And if we have one more turn, the Sleeper Agent plus Soul Spike gets it done. So I guess technically we have to sit through this. This deck kind of feels a little bit like eggs. So I guess we can do a little wrap up while our opponent's doing this. So what did we learn? I mean, we'll check back in a minute. We're gonna click F6 and we'll check back in. So what do we learn about this deck? So we finished with a 2-3. The deck felt competitive, like for a budget deck and a really janky budget deck. Little disappointing that we started off 2-0 and then lost 3 in a row. Although we really got to see, the deck be really powerful, but then we also got to see what I would consider probably a problem with the deck, which is it's not very good against the degenerate combo decks of Modern. Like, it was close, and that's part of what makes it sad, is it felt like, oh my goodness, we need one burn spell against Living End, we need one burn spell against Amulet Titan, but it might just be that our burn is just not quite efficient enough to beat the decks that can go off on turn 3. In Modern, in 2023, the list of decks that is winning the game on turn 3 is it's pretty high. Like, if you actually look at it, I mean, Hammer Time, Crashing Footfalls, Amulet Titan, Indomitable Creativity, Yawgmoth, those are Tron, Living End. Those are like half the meta is decks that either literally or functionally wins the game on turn 3. I don't know why I was saying we needed to do something. We're still F6. Our opponent's still doing their thing, making all their mana. All that to say, the deck is very intriguing and it's very fun, and I think it's a cool budget option. Just how competitive it is. The person who sent me the deck list, they said they played 3 leagues with it, and they went 2-3, 3-2, and then 5-0. That sounds about right. Like, we saw in our first 2 matches how the deck can win, and even in these other matches, if we played against Amulet Titan and they didn't have their double Amulet Nut Draw, if we played against Living End and they didn't have their thing exactly on turn 3, we would have easily won those matches. So it was close enough. It was close enough that we would theoretically be able to pull it off. If our opponent stumbled a little bit. So I can definitely see how the deck would have the ability to 5-0 a league. If you hit the right matchups, and like I said, it felt really, really good in the fair matchups. And by fair, I'm talking about, like, is it Murktide, Rakdos mid-range? I'm sure we would be hilariously good against Burn. Unfortunately, we didn't get to play that, but I think that's probably just a free win against Burn. Decks like that are trying to play creatures and removal and actually play a game, like, in those matchups, the deck felt really good. It did cool things. It did effective things. All right, opponents finding Valakuts now. Yep. Okay, this is turn 4. Our opponent made 40 mana. They drew half their deck. They have 4 amulets on the battlefield. I actually wonder if Mycosynth Gardens gets this deck banned now. Maybe Gardens, and just the combo of Urza Saga and Mycosynth Gardens and how consistent and explosive it makes Amulet. Nah, there's the haste to go with the Cultivator Colossus. Maybe this is what finally gets the deck banned. So we end up with a 2 and 3 with Mono Blackburn. So here's my feedback on the deck. The deck is fun. The deck was more competitive than I would have thought. When you hear Mono Blackburn and you hear Sleeper Agents, still not sold on 16 lands. It mostly worked out, although we already have some, like, kind of risky cards like Chancellors and Soul Spikes. I don't think we can really afford to mulligan too often. Here is, let me pull up this was my build. I decided, okay, I'm gonna play the build from the viewer. We're gonna play exactly that build, but I also made my version, which was still designed to be a budget build, but it was hopefully going to fix what I was concerned about with just not having enough lands in the deck. So I would say I'm still a little uncomfortable with 16. We didn't flood out, which is good, but I think we can play like 18 lands and still not flood out because of the Horizon lands that we can sack to draw cards. So here's what my updated build looked like. Although I will say, after playing the deck, I think we want the Sleeper Agent. Like, Sleeper Agent felt really good. I think that maybe the right way to do it is add in the Sleeper Agent. So we have 4 Sleeper Agents and maybe go down a Sword Point Diplomacy. Something like this. So this is 19 lands. 19 might be too much. Maybe 18's the correct number and we can keep the Sign in Blood. But basically the idea is it's the same exact deck, except we trimmed a few cards so we could get a couple more lands in the deck. And the lands we added are also Horizon lands, so we can sacrifice them to draw cards if we need to. So I think even with 18 or 19 lands, the risk of actually flooding is going to be pretty minimal, just because half of our lands almost we can sacrifice to turn into a card. So if you ever do draw too many lands, because if you look at Modern Burn, like the Boros tier build of Modern Burn, that's a deck that actually plays 20 lands. Modern Burn plays 20 lands, and their curve ends at really 2 mana. Like, yes, some of these cards technically say 3 mana, but really you're casting them for 1 mana. So they're playing 20 lands, and their curve ends at 2. Our deck is playing 16 lands, and our curve goes to 3 for Sword Point Diplomacy. So I think that 16 is just not quite enough. Other concerns for the deck, if you want to try this deck, and I would recommend it because even though the last couple matches were disappointing, they were super close, and the first ones were super good, and the deck is super cool and super unique. Other feedback, though, that I would say, we probably need an answer for Life Gain. We need an answer for Urza Saga. That was a really big problem for our deck. I would say Pithing Needle / Ratchet Bomb in the sideboard is probably the way to go. I don't know about Needlebite Trap. It seemed like we brought it in one match, and that was kind of a long shot. It might be that it's just not enough to actually be able to, not consistent enough to be able to cast it. Like, if our opponent's not gaining life, it does nothing. So it might be that we need to change these sideboard slots, and we could use these to play the Pithing Needles, use these to play Ratchet Bombs, cards that can actually interact with Urza Saga. That was a problem. The other thing I would say is, what do we do about those fast combo decks? Thoughtseize would be really good. Although that's not going to help with the budget aspect of the deck. It's going to make it too expensive. Maybe there's like, I don't know, Damping Sphere maybe would help against Amulet Titan. Like, in a lot of those matchups, it felt like we needed to buy a single turn. If we could have bought one more turn against Living End, if we could have bought one more turn against Amulet Titan, we would have won rather than losing, and then we would have been 4-0. Like, we are 4-1 with the deck. So you're right on the cusp. So I don't know the best way to do that. I don't know the best way to buy that one extra turn. But I think that that's something to keep in mind as well. That basically Urza Saga felt like an issue for the deck, especially with Shadow Sphere. And then Degenerate combo decks felt like an issue for the deck because they were just like a half a turn faster than we were. So we'd get our opponent like right on the cusp, but then our opponent would win the game with their big combo. So those are things to keep in mind. Really, the main deck, though, it felt pretty solid. Sleeper Agent was a literal sleeper. I expected this card to be really bad, and it was one of the best cards in our deck. It was absurdly good. It was so strong, and it works well with the fact that we have so much life gain in the deck with our Sovereign's Bites and Okaiba Reckoners and Gati's Mechanicians and Chancellor of the Drawses. We can afford to take the damage from it, and it was dealing 6 or 8 damage a turn. It was like a Black Goblin Guide with the amount of damage it would dealing our opponent, except they weren't actually drawing lands off of it. You don't get the downside of Goblin Guide. Another thing that I think is interesting is like, is Sword Point Diplomacy actually worth it? I like the card draw, but as we saw, it's pretty bad when we're behind a lot of the time, because when we're behind, our opponent's just like, sure, take all the cards, we don't care, we're gonna kill you. If we're ahead, it can be good. Like, if our opponent's down to 9 life or 8 life and we cast it, it does actually put our opponent in a tough spot, but it's a little bit hit or miss. It might be like, it might be kind of a win more card where, like, when we're already winning, it's fine and it helps us close out the game. But when we have a bad draw or when we're behind, our opponents are just like, sure, draw 3 for 3. Like, that ain't no thing. We're gonna take in Living End and just kill you. So I think that's something that is worth keeping in mind, that maybe Sword Point Diplomacy is not worth it, even though it is kind of a iconic quote unquote Blackburn spell. So I don't know. Anyway, that's Blackburn for Modern. We finished with a 2-3. Would have been nice to get an extra win. We were super close though to going 3-2 or even 4-1 with the deck. And based on the person who sent the deck, they had wet 5-0 with it. It took a few leagues to get there, and I think we would have got there if we just kept playing leagues with this deck. You hit the right matchups, you run well. I think it is a deck that can 5-0. So that's Blackbird for Modern. That's our budget magic for this week. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you got ideas about how to improve the deck or where to go with the deck or other decks we can play Sleeper Agent in, because Sleeper Agent, oh, I love that card now. Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you soon.